We have breaking news. Chicago police say 4 people are dead and 14 others wounded after a mass shooting overnight. It happened outside a restaurant where a rapper named Mello Buckzz was holding a mixtape release party. Let's bring ABC News' Olivia Rubin for more. Olivia, what's the latest here?
11:02 p.m. The dark sedan slowed to a crawl outside Artis Restaurant in Chicago's River North. Inside, rapper Mello Buckzz' mixtape release was in full swing. Outside, partygoers mingled on the sidewalk, the night air filled with music and conversation. Then came the flash, muzzle flares from multiple weapons. The crowd scattered, blood soaked through the red carpet, meant for celebration, not carnage. In just seconds, 18 people were shot. 4 of them would never go home again. Taylor Walker, the 26-year-old hairstylist with dreams of vacation. Aviance King, 27, who dedicated her life to healthcare. Leon Henry, just 25, whose grandmother never knew where he was headed that night. And Devonte Williamson, 23, a young father whose daughter would turn 3 without him. What started as a mixtape release party ended as one of Chicago's deadliest mass shootings. Welcome to our channel. If you've ever felt that chill of danger at what should have been a fun night out, drop your city in the comments below. This is a story about celebration, violence, and lives cut tragically short. Behind every headline about mass violence are real people with dreams, talents, and loved ones left behind. The 4 victims of the River North shooting weren't just statistics, they were vibrant individuals whose futures were stolen in seconds. Taylor Walker. At 26, Taylor Walker was making her mark on Chicago's South Side. With skilled hands and a creative eye, she built a growing clientele as a hairstylist who could transform not just appearances, but moods. She could make anyone feel beautiful, said a regular client who'd booked her next appointment for a week after the shooting. Taylor wasn't just talented, she was a natural leader. As captain of her dance team, she choreographed routines that blended technical precision with raw emotion. Videos of her performances show a woman completely in her element, moving with confidence and joy. "My baby was smart," her aunt told reporters, voice breaking. She had this laugh that would fill up a room.
First of all, she was beautiful. You know, she was intelligent, smart, funny.
Taylor had been planning a vacation the following week, her first real break in over a year. Her suitcase was already half-packed at home. That Wednesday night, Taylor went to support her friend Mello Buckz's mixtape release. She posted a video just hours before the shooting dancing with friends inside Artis. Her last social media update showed her smiling, captioned, "Good vibes only tonight." Aviance King spent her days helping others heal. At 27, she worked in healthcare, choosing a career path that put others' raw mistake before her own. Colleagues described her as the calm in the storm during medical emergencies. She was the type who'd stay late if a patient needed extra attention, said a coworker. That compassion wasn't something she turned off when her shift ended. Outside work, Aviance was deeply connected to her community. She volunteered at food drives and organized health screenings in underserved neighborhoods. Her uncle, Kelvin White, who would later identify her body at Northwestern Hospital, said she represented the best of what Chicago could be. The night of the shooting, Aviance had initially planned to work a night shift, but swapped with a colleague to attend her friend's celebration. She was shot in the chest and pronounced dead at Northwestern, the same hospital where she had once considered applying for a position. Leon Andrew Henry. At 25, Leon Andrew Henry was the quietest of the 4 victims. Less is publicly known about him, creating a painful irony. In death, his privacy remains intact, while his name becomes part of a tragic statistic. What we do know comes primarily through his grandmother's grief. "He left the house that evening, and I asked where he was going," she told local news, her hands trembling. "He just said, 'out with friends.' I had no idea he was heading to that party. No idea I'd never see him again." Leon was shot in the head during the attack. First responders rushed him to Stroger Hospital, but his injuries were too severe. Friends described him as loyal and the guy who'd always have your back in tough situations. A former teacher remembered him as thoughtful, the kind of student who asked questions nobody else thought to ask. His social media showed a young man who enjoyed basketball and spending time with a tight-knit group of friends. Devonte Williamson. At just 23, Devonte Williamson was already reshaping his life around responsibility and fatherhood. As the boyfriend of rapper Mello Buckzz, he could have easily been pulled into the music scene's fast life. Instead, he focused on building stability. Who just got his commercial driver's license, his mother explained. He was so proud of that certificate. Talked about how trucking would let him provide for his little girl. His daughter was weeks away from her 3rd birthday when he was killed. Family described Devonte as a very smart, caring, loving father who always brightened up a room with a big smile. Photos show him holding his daughter with a look of pure adoration, the kind of father who was present, not just in name. The night of the shooting was supposed to be a celebration of his girlfriend's achievement. In a heartbreaking Instagram post afterward, Mello Buckzz called him "my handsomey man" and shared her devastation. Devonte's mother now faces the impossible task of explaining to a toddler why daddy isn't coming home. How do you tell a child that young that her father was murdered? She asked reporters. There are no words. 4 lives, 4 futures erased. Taylor will never style another client's hair. Aviance will never comfort another patient. Leon will never return to his grandmother's house. Devonte will never see his daughter grow up. The true cost of gun violence isn't measured in numbers, it's measured in the empty spaces left behind. July 2, 2025 was supposed to be a milestone for Melanie Doyle, known to her fans as Mello Buckzz. After years of building a following, primarily women who connected with her raw lyrics and authentic Chicago sound, she was finally releasing her mixtape Hollywood, the celebration venue, Artis Restaurant and Lounge in River North, an upscale establishment that had opened just 3 months earlier. Artis wasn't chosen by accident. The Black and LGBTQ-owned Creole restaurant had quickly positioned itself as something different in Chicago's nightlife scene. Its owners marketed it as a sanctuary, a place where Black, brown, queer, and allied communities could gather, be celebrated, and feel at home in River North. In a neighborhood dominated by mainstream establishments, Artis represented inclusion and cultural expression. The restaurant's Instagram page proudly proclaimed its mission, creating safe spaces for communities that often felt unwelcome in upscale areas. This philosophy resonated with Mello Buckzz, whose music often touched on themes of identity and belonging. For her mixtape release, she wanted somewhere that matched her values. Inside Artis that night, the atmosphere was electric. Social media clips show Mello in a striking outfit dancing with friends as her tracks played through the sound system. The private event drew her inner circle, boyfriend Devonte, friends like Taylor Walker, and supporters who'd been with her since her earliest performances. The vibe was amazing, one survivor later told police. Everyone was celebrating her success, dancing, taking photos on the red carpet they'd rolled out. It felt like a real industry event, not just some local party. Videos posted to Instagram and TikTok captured the jubilation. Glasses raised in toasts. Bass-heavy tracks making the crowd move in unison. Mello Buckzz at the center of it all. Finally seeing her hard work materialize into something tangible. Her mixtape playing while people she loved surrounded her. One clip, posted at 10:37 p.m., shows her embracing Devonte, both of them laughing as someone off-camera shouts, "Power couple." Neither could know they had less than 30 minutes left together. As the night progressed, the celebration began spilling outside. By 11:00 p.m., a sizable crowd had gathered on the sidewalk in front of Artis. Some stepped out for air, others to smoke, many to network and continue conversations away from the music's volume. The red carpet extended from the door, creating an impromptu VIP area on the public sidewalk. What nobody noticed was the dark sedan that drove past once, then twice, moving slowly enough for its occupants to survey the scene. Security footage, later recovered by police, shows the vehicle circling the block approximately 7 minutes before the shooting. Inside were the individuals who would transform celebration into catastrophe. The crowd outside grew denser. More people exited the venue. The summer night air a relief from the packed interior. Some partygoers were calling ride-sharers, checking phones, taking selfies against the restaurant's illuminated sign. The gathering created a perfect target. distracted and visible from the street. At 10:58 p.m., security cameras captured Mello Buckzz herself stepping outside, surrounded by friends including Taylor Walker and Aviance King. They posed for photos, laughing, completely unaware of what was about to happen. 4 minutes later, those same cameras would record the flash of gunfire and the beginning of chaos. The celebration that was meant to launch a career instead became the backdrop for tragedy. A night that started with music and ended with mourning. The security footage tells a chilling story. At 10:55 p.m., a black Honda Accord with distinctive 20-inch rims first appears on camera, moving slowly past Artis Restaurant. The driver's face is obscured, but the passenger window is slightly lowered. They're watching, assessing, planning. 7 minutes later, the same vehicle returns. This time, it approaches from the east, headlights dimmed. The crowd outside Artis has grown to nearly 30 people, their attention focused on each other, on their phones, on the celebration, anywhere but the approaching threat. 11:02 p.m. The timestamp in the corner of the security footage marks the moment everything changed. The Honda slows to almost a complete stop. The passenger window lowers fully. Then muzzle flashes illuminate the night, rapid, rhythmic, deliberate. Police would later recover shell casings from at least 2 different calibers of firearms, including what ballistics experts believe was a rifle. "It sounded like firecrackers at first," said Roger Tanner, who was passing by in a taxi. "Then I saw people dropping. It was like watching dominoes fall, but these were human beings." The crowd's reaction was instant and chaotic. Some fell where they stood, struck by bullets. Others dove behind parked cars. Many ran blindly, some toward the nearby Chicago Avenue Brown Line station, others into the restaurant. The gunfire lasted approximately 12 seconds, less than the average commercial break, but long enough to forever alter dozens of lives. Crystal Gray was walking nearby when the attack began. "You could hear boom, 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 round after round," she recalled. "People was just falling and screaming. I didn't walk over here. I stood across the street and I saw all of them falling. It looked like people overseas just laying on the ground." Inside the Honda, the shooters didn't linger. As soon as the last shot was fired, the vehicle accelerated eastbound, disappearing into Chicago's grid of streets. To this day, no one has been charged with the shooting. The aftermath was immediate and horrific. Bodies lay scattered across the sidewalk. Blood pooled on the red carpet that had been rolled out for the celebration. Personal belongings, phones, purses, shoes, kicked off in desperate attempts to run, littered the scene. First responders arrived within minutes, faced with a scene one veteran paramedic described as a war zone. Police officers carried victims to ambulances, not waiting for stretchers. One officer was captured on bystander video carrying a young woman over his shoulder, her blood staining his uniform as he ran toward medical help. The injured were distributed across Chicago's trauma centers, Northwestern Memorial, Stroger, Mount Sinai, and Illinois Masonic, an effort to prevent any one hospital from being overwhelmed. For 4 victims, these efforts came too late. Leon Henry and Devonte Williamson were pronounced dead at Stroger Hospital. Taylor Walker and Aviance King died at Northwestern Memorial. 14 others survived with injuries ranging from minor to critical. 3 women were in particularly dire condition: a 24-year-old shot in her back, a 25-year-old with a bullet wound to her left leg, and a 21-year-old shot in her mouth. A 31-year-old woman with multiple gunshot wounds throughout her body was listed in serious condition. As dawn broke over Chicago, investigators began piecing together not just how the attack happened, but why. The seemingly random violence had hallmarks of something more targeted. Police Superintendent Larry Snelling would later confirm, "Obviously, there's a motive there."
This wasn't some random shooting where someone just decided that they were going to shoot at this particular group of people.
It is safe to say this venue was targeted. What initially appeared to be a senseless act of violence was revealing itself as something potentially more calculated. As detectives dug deeper into the background of the event and its attendees, they discovered connections that pointed to a disturbing possibility. One that would change the entire understanding of what happened that night. The mixtape release party wasn't just a celebration of music. It may have been the backdrop for something far more dangerous: gang retaliation. By morning, the block of West Chicago Avenue looked like a battlefield frozen in time. Yellow evidence markers, dozens of them, dotted the sidewalk where shell casings had landed. The red carpet, now stained dark brown with dried blood, remained partially rolled out from Artis's entrance. A single woman's shoe, a cell phone with a cracked screen, and discarded medical packaging from first responders' desperate efforts littered the scene. The window of the neighboring Dunkin' Donuts displayed a jagged hole where a stray bullet had pierced the glass. Inside Artis, abandoned drinks sat on tables. A banner congratulating Mello Buckzz hung askew, partially torn down in the chaos of people rushing for cover. "I've covered shootings for years," said one local reporter, "but I've never seen evidence markers stretch for an entire block." The sheer volume of gunfire was staggering. By noon, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson stood before a forest of microphones, his face grave. "Shootings like these are a tragic reminder of how far we still have to go as a city," he stated. "Shooting into a crowd is not the best of who we are. It is unacceptable, and we will not stand for that in the city of Chicago. We are frustrated, but we are also grieving. We will not rest until there is full accountability." Police Superintendent Larry Snelling didn't mince words, calling the attack deplorable and cowardly. His assessment was blunt. In a matter of seconds, they were able to shoot 18 people, taking 4 lives. We have to do better. We have to hold people accountable. And we as a society have to hold people accountable. The question many are asking: could better security have prevented this tragedy? Would metal detectors, armed guards, or stricter entrance policies have saved lives? Or would such measures destroy the very atmosphere these venues try to create? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should entertainment venues prioritize security over experience? Or is there a balance to be found? By afternoon, city officials had placed a bright orange sign on Artis's door: "Summary Closure." The restaurant that had opened with such promise just 3 months earlier was now shuttered indefinitely while the investigation continued. Questions about Artis's operations quickly emerged. Alderman Brendan Riley of the 42nd Ward revealed that the venue had been operating as a BYOB establishment while its liquor license application was pending. More concerning, he alleged the restaurant had violated terms of its business license by hosting a promoted event. "I'm furious and I'm incredibly frustrated," Riley told reporters. "There are some stipulations the city included there they had to sign off on, including not using promoters and not offering bottle service at their venue. It's pretty clear those 2 things happened last night." The location's history added another troubling dimension. In 2022, when the space housed a different nightclub called Hush Chicago, another shooting had occurred, leaving 1 dead and 3 injured. That incident had led to Hush's closure. "I don't want to see any new operation in that venue," Riley declared. "It's cursed as far as I'm concerned." In the communities most affected by the shooting, fear of retaliation hung heavy. Community activist Andrew Holmes expressed concern that the violence could trigger a cycle of revenge. "Everyone is at a red temperature level," he warned, "and that now has to be cooled down." Violence interrupters, individuals who work to prevent retaliatory shootings, mobilized across the south and west sides. "Whatever we can do to make sure this doesn't happen again, we're here," one said. "We have boots on the ground." As Chicago prepared for the 4th of July weekend, traditionally a time of increased violence in the city, residents wondered if the River North shooting was not an end, but a beginning. As detectives combed through evidence and witness statements, a more complex picture emerged behind the seemingly random attack. What initially appeared to be senseless violence began revealing potential gang connections that changed the investigation's direction. Social media activity provided the first clues. Mello Buckzz had referenced NLMB on her Facebook page, an acronym for No Limit Muskegon Boys, a faction affiliated with both the Black P. Stones and Gangster Disciples based in Chicago's South Shore neighborhood. This gang had been involved in multiple recent shootings, including a daytime attack at a South Loop barbershop just weeks earlier. Further connections surfaced when investigators discovered that prominent drill rapper G Herbo, a longtime NLMB associate, had featured on Mello Buckzz's new mixtape. While this alone didn't prove a motive, it established potential gang affiliations that could have made the event a target. "We're looking at this as a targeted attack," a police source confirmed. The shooters weren't just firing randomly. They circled the block, they watched, they waited. They knew exactly what they were doing and who was there. The location itself carried a violent history. In 2022, when the space housed Hush Chicago nightclub, a similar shooting had occurred outside the venue, leaving 1 dead and 3 injured. That incident had prompted city officials to close Hush permanently. The parallels between the two shootings raised questions about whether the address itself had become contested territory between rival factions. As the investigation continued, Mello Buckzz shared her grief on social media. "My heart broke into so many pieces," she wrote, alongside photos of Devonte Williamson. "I don't wish this to put pain on nobody." Her posts alternated between raw emotional outpourings and periods of silence, the digital footprint of someone processing unimaginable loss. For the families of the victims, the investigation's progress offered little comfort, as they faced the immediate reality of identifying their loved ones and making funeral arrangements. Kelvin White, Aviance King's uncle, described the gut-wrenching experience of identifying his niece's body at Northwestern Hospital. "No one prepares you for that," he said. "No one tells you how to keep breathing when you see someone you love like that." Devonte Williamson's family faced the additional burden of explaining his death to his daughter, who was weeks away from turning 3. "She keeps asking when Daddy's coming home," his mother told reporters, her voice breaking. "How do you tell a baby that Daddy's never coming home again?" Leon Henry's grandmother, who hadn't known he was attending the event, learned of his death when police officers knocked on her door at 3 a.m. Taylor Walker's mother, Sharonda Booth, described waiting outside Northwestern Hospital, desperately seeking information about her daughter, while also learning that her daughter's girlfriend had been among the wounded. The 14 survivors faced their own battles. 3 remained in critical condition days after the shooting. A 24-year-old woman with a gunshot wound to her back faced potential paralysis. A 21-year-old shot in the mouth underwent multiple surgeries to reconstruct her jaw and would require extensive speech therapy. A 31-year-old with multiple gunshot wounds throughout her body remained sedated, her prognosis uncertain. Even those with less severe physical injuries carried psychological wounds. "I can't close my eyes without hearing the gunshots," one survivor told counselors. "I keep seeing my friends fall." As ballistics reports confirmed, at least 2 different weapons were used in the attack, including what appeared to be a rifle. Investigators faced a troubling reality. This level of firepower and coordination suggested not just gang involvement, but a calculated assassination attempt that disregarded any collateral damage. The question remained, who was the intended target, and would this attack spark further violence across a city already bracing for a potentially bloody holiday weekend? The River North shooting wasn't just a tragedy. It was a failure on multiple levels. A failure of security, of community intervention, of addressing the root causes that make gang violence feel like a viable path for young people in Chicago, reducing individual will, and even opening up and loosening up the community's attitudes toward the law to what these issues really mean. Effective gang intervention requires more than police crackdowns. It demands programs that offer alternatives, job training, mentorship, and pathways out for those already involved. Chicago's most successful intervention programs, like READY and Chicago Cred, show that when at-risk individuals receive support and economic opportunities, violence decreases. These programs cost money, but far less than the incalculable cost of lost lives. The security failures at Artis that night were glaring. No metal detectors, no security checks, no trained personnel monitoring the crowd outside. Basic protocols could have created a buffer zone between celebrants and the street where attackers struck. Venues must balance creating welcoming environments with fundamental safety measures, a balance Artis failed to achieve. Community policing plays a crucial role too. When officers know neighborhoods and build relationships with residents, they're more likely to receive tips about potential violence before it occurs. The distance between police and communities most affected by violence creates information gaps that can prove deadly. Perhaps most importantly, economic investment in underserved communities addresses violence at its source. When neighborhoods have thriving businesses, quality education, and accessible mental health services, the appeal of gang life diminishes. The stark contrast between River North's wealth and the limited opportunities in areas where many attendees lived highlights Chicago's economic divide. What do you think would most effectively prevent tragedies like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters in this conversation. Taylor, Aviance, Leon, and Devonte deserved long lives filled with the promise their talents suggested. Instead, they became statistics in Chicago's ongoing struggle with gun violence. But statistics don't dance like Taylor did. They don't heal others like Aviance. They don't make their grandmothers proud like Leon. They don't raise daughters like Devonte. Remember their names. Remember their stories. And remember that behind every headline about violence are real people whose absence leaves holes that can never truly be filled.